The desert stretched endlessly, golden sands rippling like waves in a silent ocean. Myra adjusted her wide-brimmed hat and wiped the sweat from her forehead. She had been traveling for days, following old maps and whispered stories from the villagers of a ruined city buried beneath the dunes. They spoke of strange carvings, hidden chambers, and treasures from a forgotten civilization. Most warned her not to go, but Myra's curiosity burned brighter than fear. She had always been drawn to the unknown, and the desert called to her like a puzzle she had to solve. As she approached the ruins, jagged stones and broken walls began to rise from the sand. The ruins were older than anyone could imagine, their surfaces etched with delicate patterns that glimmered faintly under the sun. Myra's heart raced with excitement. She knelt down and ran her fingers across a carved symbol. It was smooth and cool, and she could feel the craftsmanship of people who had lived centuries before her. Every corner of the ruins seemed alive, as if the stones themselves were whispering secrets she had yet to hear. Myra carefully explored, stepping over broken pillars and through narrow archways. She admired the way the light shifted through cracks in the walls, casting shadows that danced like spirits across the sand-strewn floor. Her eyes were drawn to a strange set of markings along one wall. They were unlike anything she had seen before, swirling lines and shapes that seemed to pulse softly in the sun. She crouched to examine them, tracing the patterns with her fingers and trying to understand their meaning. She felt a thrill in her chest. This was exactly why she had come: adventure, discovery, and the chance to touch history. Suddenly, a shadow fell across the carvings. Myra looked up sharply. A man was standing a few feet away, watching her. He had dark hair that fell slightly over his forehead and eyes that seemed to measure her with quiet curiosity. His clothes were simple, dusty from travel, yet he carried himself with confidence. Myra's instincts told her to be cautious. The desert was vast, and not everyone could be trusted. Yet, there was something about him that made her pause, something unspoken that drew her attention. "Hello," he said, his voice calm but friendly. "I didn't expect anyone else to be here." "I could say the same," Myra replied, standing and brushing the sand from her clothes. "Are you exploring too?" "Yes," he said with a small smile. "I'm Kian. I've been searching these ruins for weeks." "Myra," she introduced herself, eyeing him carefully. "It's rare to meet another explorer in a place like this." Kian nodded. "The desert is full of secrets, but most people avoid it. They don't see the beauty here. Only the danger." Myra felt a spark of connection. He seemed to understand what she felt: the thrill of the unknown, the call of history. After a moment, she said, "Maybe we can explore together. It might be safer, and two pairs of eyes are better than one." Kian studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Agreed. But we must be careful. These ruins have been abandoned for centuries, and the sand shifts constantly. Hidden dangers could be anywhere." As they moved deeper into the ruins, Myra felt a mixture of excitement and tension. Every step brought new wonders: walls covered in mosaics, statues of forgotten deities, and small chambers filled with faded paintings. Myra's heart raced as she whispered observations to Kian, who responded with his own insights. They shared theories, laughed over small discoveries, and slowly began to trust each other's instincts. At one point, Myra spotted a narrow corridor partially buried under sand. "Look at this," she said, brushing away the grains. "It might lead somewhere important." Kian knelt beside her. "You might be right. This could be a hidden entrance. Let's see where it goes." Together, they carefully stepped into the corridor. The air was cooler here, shaded from the harsh sun. The walls were lined with intricate carvings, telling stories Myra had never imagined. She felt a shiver of wonder. The ruins were no longer just a collection of stones, they were alive with history, mystery, and possibility. As the sun began to sink toward the horizon, casting a golden glow over the ruins, Myra realized something she had not expected. This adventure, which she had thought would be a solitary journey, was becoming shared. And sharing it with Kian, stranger though he was, felt different, thrilling in a way she could not yet describe. For the first time, Myra understood that sometimes the desert did not only test your courage, it tempted your heart. The narrow corridor twisted and turned like a winding path through time itself. Myra and Kian moved carefully, their footsteps echoing softly against the stone walls. The air smelled faintly of earth and dust, and the faint light from cracks above gave the passage an almost magical glow. Myra's fingers traced the carvings along the walls, amazed at how detailed they were. There were depictions of people, animals, and strange symbols she had never seen before. She leaned closer, studying them. "These look like stories," she whispered. "Stories of people who lived here long ago." Kian crouched beside her, studying the symbols. "Yes. Some of these shapes represent journeys, others protection, and these ones," he pointed to a series of spirals, "might be warnings." "They were smart people, Myra. They left messages for those who came after them." Myra smiled, impressed. "I love that. Even after centuries, they still speak to us." Kian returned her smile, and for a moment, the air seemed lighter. The desert outside felt far away, replaced by the mystery and beauty of the ruins. As they continued, they discovered a small chamber hidden behind a stone door, partially blocked by sand. Myra pushed it aside with Kian's help, revealing a space filled with colorful mosaics. Tiny stones formed scenes of daily life, people working, children playing, and celebrations of long-forgotten festivals. "These mosaics are incredible," Myra said, crouching to inspect them. "The colors are still so vivid." Kian nodded. "It's amazing how they preserved their stories. Every piece has meaning. Look here, this one shows two explorers, maybe a man and a woman together, helping each other. Could it be like us?" Myra blushed slightly, surprised by the thought. She shook her head with a laugh. "Maybe, but I doubt it's a prophecy." Yet, even as she said it, she felt a warm flutter inside her chest. She and Kian had been exploring together for only a short while, but she already felt connected to him in ways she could not explain. The chamber had a small, arched window that let in a shaft of sunlight. Dust floated in the air, creating golden sparkles that seemed almost magical. Myra stepped closer to the light, her eyes reflecting its shimmer. Kian followed, standing beside her. Their shoulders brushed, sending a small jolt of awareness through Myra. She quickly looked away, focusing on the mosaic. "You have a good eye," Kian said softly, noticing her glance. "You notice things I might miss." "And you know so much," Myra replied, smiling. "I wouldn't have understood these symbols without you." There was a comfortable silence, broken only by the faint wind whispering through cracks in the ruins. They moved deeper into the chamber, discovering a hidden alcove filled with small, carved objects. Some were tools, others were ornaments, and a few were delicate figurines of people. Myra picked up one of the figurines, holding it carefully. "It's beautiful," she said. "I wonder who made it." "Someone with care," Kian said, watching her. "Someone who wanted to be remembered." As they explored, their teamwork became natural. Kian would guide Myra through tricky steps, pointing out loose stones, and Myra would spot hidden markings that Kian might overlook. Each small act of help created trust between them, and their laughter echoed in the quiet ruins. Myra felt lighter than she had in weeks. The desert's harshness seemed far away, replaced by the companionship and shared excitement of discovery. After a while, they came to another narrow passage, its walls covered with carvings that shimmered faintly under the light. Myra crouched to examine one section, brushing away the sand. Kian knelt beside her, his hand close to hers. Neither moved it, yet the nearness felt comforting, almost thrilling. "This is incredible," Myra said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The patterns, they feel alive." "They do," Kian agreed. "They're like a map of knowledge, of life, of experiences. Whoever created this wanted someone to understand." Myra nodded, looking into his eyes for a moment. She quickly looked away, focusing on the wall. The ruins were no longer just stones and carvings, they were a shared adventure, a journey that was slowly bringing them closer together. She felt excitement and a strange warmth in her chest. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew that exploring these ruins with Kian was already changing her in ways she hadn't expected. As they finally emerged from the narrow passage into a larger hall, the sun was beginning to dip below the horizon. Golden light spilled across the floor, illuminating more mosaics and carvings. Myra took a deep breath, feeling a mixture of wonder and anticipation. "This place, it's more than I imagined," she said. Kian smiled, glancing at her. "And it's only the beginning." Together, they stepped forward, ready to uncover more secrets of the ruins, unaware that the desert was not only testing their courage but slowly drawing their hearts together as well. The large hall stretched before Myra and Kian, its high ceilings carved with delicate patterns that shimmered in the fading sunlight. Dust floated in the air, catching the golden rays and giving the room an almost magical glow. Myra stepped carefully, her eyes scanning every corner, fascinated by the beauty surrounding her. The walls were covered in murals, each telling a story. Some depicted celebrations, others depicted journeys, and a few showed scenes of struggle and triumph. "Look at this," Myra said, pointing to a mural near the center. "It's two people, a man and a woman, exploring ruins just like us." Kian crouched beside her, studying the mural carefully. "Yes, I see it. They look confident, brave, and connected. Almost like partners." Myra felt a shiver run down her spine. The similarity between the mural and their own journey was uncanny. She tried to shake it off, focusing instead on the artistry. "The details are incredible. You can almost feel their story." Kian nodded. "It's like they left a message for people like us. To trust each other, to be brave, and to explore together." Myra glanced at him, her chest warming slightly. There was something about his calm voice and the way he looked at the mural that made her feel safe. She had always been independent, relying on herself in every adventure, but being with Kian felt different. His presence was steady, and somehow, exploring with him made the ruins feel less intimidating and more alive. They walked slowly through the hall, examining the murals and small carvings along the walls. Occasionally, Myra would kneel to inspect the details, while Kian would point out hidden symbols or patterns she might have missed. Their conversation flowed naturally, from theories about the ruins to stories of other places they had explored. With each shared story, they learned more about each other, not just as explorers, but as people. After some time, they reached a large stone door partially covered by fallen debris. Myra pushed a few stones aside, revealing an archway that led to a smaller chamber. Inside, the air was cooler and carried a faint scent of minerals. The walls were covered in mosaics, showing scenes of daily life, children playing, people working, and families sharing meals. The artistry was vibrant, even after centuries. These people, they valued family and community, Myra said softly. Even in a place that seems so ancient, they cared about life and connection. Kian smiled. It's comforting to see. Sometimes, ruins feel lonely, like all life has disappeared. But these mosaics remind us that life once thrived here, just like it thrives in us now. Myra felt a small thrill at his words. There was wisdom in them, and something deeper she couldn't quite explain. She looked around the chamber, noticing a small window that allowed a single shaft of light to illuminate the mosaics. Dust motes danced in the air like tiny stars. She stepped closer, mesmerized by the effect. Kian followed, standing beside her. Their shoulders brushed, and Myra felt a warm, pleasant jolt. She quickly looked away, focusing on the floor, but Kian's gaze lingered, not unkindly, on her. This place, it feels alive, Myra whispered. Almost like it's welcoming us. Yes, Kian agreed softly. It's not just the history, it's the energy. The courage and hope of the people who built this place still lingers. Myra smiled faintly, feeling a growing sense of connection not just with the ruins, but with Kian. They moved together through the chamber, examining carvings of explorers, animals, and symbols of protection. Every so often, Kian would point out a detail, and Myra would respond with a thoughtful observation. Their conversation was easy, filled with curiosity and laughter, and Myra realized she enjoyed it more than she had expected. As they neared the far end of the chamber, Myra noticed a small passageway partially hidden by a stone column. This might lead somewhere, she said, brushing the sand aside. Kian nodded. Shall we see? Together, they stepped into the narrow passage, the walls closing in slightly. The air felt cooler, and the light dimmer. Myra felt a thrill of excitement mixed with a hint of nervousness. Exploring unknown paths had always been her passion, but having Kian by her side made it even more exhilarating. Every sound echoed, every shadow seemed alive, yet she felt safe. The passage opened into a small courtyard, and Myra gasped. Sunlight poured in from above, revealing overgrown plants and a sparkling water pool at its center. The oasis was hidden, untouched by time. She stepped closer to the water, dipping her fingers into the cool surface, and laughed softly. It's beautiful, she said, turning to Kian. He smiled, watching her eyes light up. We found it together. Maybe that's the best part. Myra nodded, feeling the truth of his words. The ruins were no longer just a place of mystery, they had become a shared adventure, one that was slowly bringing them closer in ways she had never expected. And as the sun dipped lower, casting golden light across the hidden oasis, Myra realized that the desert ruins were not only full of history, they were full of possibilities, and perhaps, even the beginnings of something unexpected between her and Kian. The desert wind began to rise as Myra and Kian left the hidden courtyard, eager to continue their exploration. The sky, once clear and bright, was now streaked with orange clouds, signaling that a storm was approaching. Myra tightened her scarf around her neck, feeling the first grains of sand whip against her face. Kian glanced up at the sky, his expression calm but alert. We should find shelter soon, he said. The sandstorms here can come out of nowhere. Myra nodded, scanning the ruins for a place to wait out the storm. They returned to the large hall they had discovered earlier, moving quickly as the wind began to pick up. Outside, the desert became a swirling blur of golden dust, and the distant horizon disappeared behind a wall of sand. The ruins, though ancient and cracked, offered them some protection. Inside the hall, the temperature dropped, and the wind rattled the walls. Myra shivered slightly and drew her jacket tighter around her. Kian noticed and stepped closer, offering a reassuring smile. "It's going to be fine," he said. "These ruins have withstood centuries. A little sandstorm won't hurt them or us." Myra returned his smile, feeling comforted by his presence. They found a sheltered corner and sat down, leaning against the stone walls. The storm raged outside, but inside the ruins, it was quieter, almost serene. Myra could hear the faint whistle of the wind through cracks in the stones, and the soft echo of their breathing. As they waited, the conversation turned to more personal topics. Myra told Kian about her childhood, her love for adventure, and the moment she realized she wanted to explore the unknown. Kian listened attentively, sharing stories of his own past journeys, the challenges he had faced, and the lessons he had learned. With every word, they learned more about each other, their respect and trust growing stronger. At one point, Myra noticed a small crack in the ceiling, and dust began to fall. Kian quickly moved to steady a loose stone above her, shielding her with his arm. "Careful," he said softly, his eyes meeting hers. "I've got you." Myra felt a warmth in her chest. It was not just gratitude, there was something deeper, something she hadn't expected to feel so quickly. She nodded, trying to hide her blush. "Thank you," she whispered. They spent hours in that quiet, waiting out the storm. The wind howled outside, shifting sand and creating strange shadows that danced across the walls. Myra found herself studying Kian, noticing the way his eyes focused on details, the way his calmness balanced her excitement. She realized that being with him made the ruins feel alive in a different way. It wasn't just history or mystery, it was shared experience, trust, and connection. As night began to fall, the storm finally began to subside. The wind slowed, and the golden dust in the air settled. Myra and Kian stepped out into the open hall, their feet crunching on the sand. The desert outside was transformed, the dunes reshaped by the storm, sparkling under the emerging stars. "Look at that," Myra said, pointing at the sky. The Milky Way stretched above them, a river of stars over the endless desert. Kian smiled, standing beside her. "It's beautiful. The desert can be harsh, but it gives moments like this too." They walked to the edge of a small platform overlooking the ruins, the cool night air brushing against their faces. Myra felt a sense of awe and peace. The ruins had tested her courage, but the real test had been learning to trust someone else, to rely on Kian, even just a little, in a place that felt both dangerous and magical. Kian glanced at her, and she met his gaze. There was no need for words, their shared experience had said everything. They had faced the storm together, relied on each other, and discovered that trust could grow even in the harshest conditions. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. Myra realized that the ruins were no longer just a destination, they were the place where her bond with Kian had begun to deepen. The desert, with all its mystery and challenge, had brought them together in ways she had never imagined. "I'm glad we did this together," Myra said softly, breaking the comfortable silence. "Me too," Kian replied. "I think we make a good team, Myra. Not just in exploring, but in everything." She smiled, her heart fluttering. The desert had tested her courage, shown her wonders, and now, it had shown her the possibility of connection, a trust and warmth that went beyond friendship. And as they sat together under the starry sky, Myra understood that some adventures were not only about discovering ruins or treasures but also about discovering hearts, and theirs were slowly finding each other. The ruins, once silent and mysterious, now felt alive with history, magic, and the promise of new beginnings. The morning sun rose slowly over the desert, casting long, warm shadows across the ruins. Myra and Kian woke to the quiet chirping of birds hidden among the stones. The sandstorm of the previous night had reshaped the dunes outside, making the ruins look both familiar and completely new. Myra stretched, feeling the crisp morning air fill her lungs, and glanced at Kian, who was already studying a nearby wall. "Look at this," Kian said, pointing to a faint pattern in the sand that seemed to lead away from the ruins. "I think it's a path that wasn't visible before. The storm must have uncovered it." Myra's eyes lit up with excitement. "Then we should follow it. Who knows what secrets it might lead to." They set off together, moving carefully along the narrow trail that wound between stones and sand-covered arches. The desert was quiet except for the crunch of their boots and the distant call of a lone hawk. As they walked, Myra felt a thrill of anticipation, not just for the discovery ahead but for the companionship she shared with Kian. Every so often, their hands brushed as they helped each other over tricky stones, sending sparks of awareness through her that she tried to ignore. After some time, the trail opened into a hidden courtyard unlike anything Myra had expected. It was small but filled with life. Lush greenery had taken root in the center, surrounding a clear, sparkling pool of water. Sunlight reflected off the water, creating tiny golden sparks on the surrounding stones. Birds and small animals had made this hidden oasis their home. Myra gasped, her eyes wide with wonder. This is amazing," she breathed. She stepped closer to the pool, bending to touch the cool water. It felt refreshing against her warm hands. Kian followed, smiling as he observed her delight. "It's like a secret paradise," he said. "I can't believe it's here, hidden in the desert all this time." Myra laughed softly, feeling a mixture of excitement and relief. "It's beautiful. It almost feels magical." They explored the oasis slowly, careful not to disturb the plants or animals. Small flowers peeked from cracks in the stones, and tiny fish swam in the clear water. Myra knelt beside the pool, letting her fingers skim the surface, sending gentle ripples across the water. Kian sat nearby, his gaze lingering on her more than the oasis itself. Myra felt her heart warm at the thought that he was as captivated by her presence as she was by the hidden paradise. "Do you think anyone else knows about this place?" Myra asked, looking up at him. Kian shook his head. "I don't think so. And maybe that's why it has survived all this time. It's meant for those who are willing to explore, to notice, and to respect it." Myra smiled, feeling a deeper connection to him. "Then I'm glad we found it together." They spent hours in the oasis, examining carvings hidden beneath the stones and discovering small niches filled with remnants of the past, carved tools, tiny clay figurines, and faded pieces of cloth preserved by the dry desert air. With each discovery, Myra and Kian shared laughter, amazement, and thoughtful observations. The bond between them was growing stronger, built on curiosity, respect, and shared wonder. At one point, their hands brushed again as they reached for the same figurine. Both froze for a moment, the air around them seeming to hold its breath. Myra looked into Kian's eyes and saw the same mixture of surprise and gentle warmth reflected back at her. Neither spoke immediately, but the silence was comfortable, filled with an understanding that their connection had deepened. Kian finally spoke, his voice soft. "Myra. I've never explored a place like this with anyone else. It's different, better. You make it better. Myra felt her cheeks warm. She wanted to respond but found her words caught in her chest. Instead, she smiled, letting her gaze linger on him. It was enough, more than enough, to feel the trust, admiration, and something unspoken growing between them. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, they sat by the water, dipping their hands in and watching the ripples. The hidden oasis was no longer just a secret place in the desert. It had become a space where Myra and Kian could share moments of joy, laughter, and quiet understanding. The ruins had revealed their secrets, but more importantly, they had revealed the beginning of a connection that neither of them could ignore. Myra leaned back against a warm stone, taking a deep breath. The desert, with all its harshness and beauty, had given her adventure, discovery, and now, the possibility of something extraordinary with Kian. And as he watched her with a gentle smile, she knew that the journey through the desert ruins was far from over, both in exploration and in the quiet, growing bond that was slowly, beautifully unfolding between them. The hidden oasis had given Myra and Kian a moment of peace, but the ruins still held secrets waiting to be uncovered. After resting, they decided to explore further, following a narrow path partially hidden behind overgrown plants. The walls here were taller, carved with intricate patterns that seemed to glow faintly in the sunlight. Myra felt a shiver of excitement. She knew they were getting closer to something important. "This section looks different," Myra said, brushing away sand from a large stone slab. "These carvings are more detailed, almost ceremonial." Kian nodded, examining the symbols. "I think this might be the central chamber of the ruins. Places like this were often reserved for the most important artifacts or messages." Together, they carefully stepped through an archway into a spacious chamber. Sunlight filtered in through cracks in the ceiling, illuminating a pedestal at the center. On the pedestal rested a golden artifact, small but radiant, its surface covered in delicate inscriptions. Myra's eyes widened. "It's beautiful," she whispered, stepping closer. The artifact seemed to capture the light, making it glow with a warmth that felt almost alive. Kian approached from the other side, equally captivated. "Legends spoke of an object that grants insight to those who are worthy," he said softly. "Perhaps this is it?" Myra reached out, hesitating for a moment before touching the artifact. It was smooth and warm under her fingers, as if it recognized her presence. Kian mirrored her movement, placing his hand gently beside hers. They both paused, aware of the moment they were sharing something rare, delicate, and profound. This isn't just about the artifact," Myra said quietly, her voice barely audible over the faint echoes of the chamber. "It's about everything we've discovered together, the ruins, the journey, and us." Kian looked into her eyes, seeing the truth in her words. "Yes," he said softly. "I've never felt this way before. Not just about adventure, about someone. Myra, being here with you, it's changed everything." Myra felt her heart quicken. She had expected discovery, excitement, even danger, but not this. Not the warmth and closeness that had been growing between them from the first moment they explored together. And now, standing in the golden light of the artifact, she realized that she didn't want to hide her feelings. "Kian," she whispered, her fingers brushing his. "I feel the same. This place, our journey, it's made me realize something I didn't expect. I care about you." A soft smile spread across Kian's face, and he gently took her hand in both of his. "I care about you too, Myra. I've never met anyone as brave, curious, and kind as you. Exploring the ruins with you has been extraordinary. You've opened my heart in a way I didn't know was possible. They stood together in silence for a moment, the artifact glowing warmly between them. It wasn't just a symbol of the past, it was a reflection of the trust, admiration, and growing affection they shared. Myra felt a sense of peace and happiness she had never known, the kind that comes from discovering both adventure and connection at the same time. After a while, they carefully stepped back from the pedestal, the moment leaving a lingering warmth in their hearts. Myra glanced at Kian, feeling a mix of joy, comfort, and excitement for what lay ahead. The ruins had revealed their secrets, but more importantly, they had revealed something deeper, an unspoken bond that had grown stronger with every challenge, every discovery, and every shared moment. Kian gestured toward the far end of the chamber. Shall we explore further? There may be more to uncover, and I'd like to keep discovering with you. Myra smiled, squeezing his hand. Yes. Together. They moved deeper into the chamber, side by side, their steps in rhythm. Every carved wall, every hidden passage now seemed brighter and more meaningful because they were experiencing it together. The ruins, once silent and mysterious, had become a place of wonder, laughter, and quiet intimacy. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, casting golden light across the chamber, Myra realized that their adventure was no longer just about uncovering history, it was about creating something new. Their shared experiences had built trust, friendship, and now a deep, tender connection. The desert ruins had tested their courage, but it had also allowed them to discover the most extraordinary treasure of all, each other. And as they stood there, hands still lightly touching, Myra and Kian understood that some journeys don't just reveal the past, they reveal hearts, hopes, and the promise of something beautiful waiting to grow. The morning sun painted the desert in soft shades of gold and pink. Myra and Kian stood on a high dune, overlooking the ruins they had explored for days. The ruins stretched out below them, ancient and mysterious, their stone walls shimmering in the early light. For a moment, they just stood there in silence, taking in the view. The desert seemed endless, vast, and full of possibilities. Myra felt a sense of calm and happiness she hadn't experienced before. The ruins had tested her courage, revealed their hidden beauty, and led her to Kian. She glanced at him, noticing the way the morning light highlighted his features, the thoughtful expression in his eyes. It was strange, and wonderful, how a shared adventure could create such a strong connection. We've seen so much, Myra said softly, breaking the silence. And yet, I feel like we're just beginning. Kian smiled, his hand brushing against hers. Yes. The ruins have shown us history, mystery, and courage. But the best discovery is that we can face anything together. Myra returned his smile, her heart warming at his words. They had explored hidden chambers, uncovered secret passages, and shared moments of awe and laughter. Each discovery had brought them closer, creating a bond that went beyond friendship. Standing here, looking out over the ruins and the desert beyond, Myra realized that their journey had changed her. She had found not just adventure, but trust, care, and something deeper with Kian. They began their descent from the dune, moving slowly, savoring the last moments among the ruins. The wind carried the soft scent of desert flowers, and the warmth of the sun felt comforting on their skin. Every step reminded Myra of the challenges they had faced, the sandstorm, the hidden corridors, and the thrill of each discovery. But more than that, it reminded her of the quiet moments shared, laughter, conversation, and the growing closeness between her and Kian. At the edge of the ruins, they paused. Myra looked back one last time, feeling a mixture of gratitude and nostalgia. These ruins, they're incredible. And we experienced them together, she said. Kian nodded, squeezing her hand gently. I'll never forget this place, or the journey we shared. It's more than history. It's a memory I'll carry forever. Myra felt her chest tighten with emotion. She had expected to find ancient artifacts, hidden chambers, and stories of the past. What she hadn't expected was the bond she had formed with Kian, something real, tender, and lasting. She realized that the ruins had not just been a destination, but a bridge, connecting their hearts in a way neither had anticipated. They walked together toward the desert path that would lead them back to the village, their steps in sync. The dunes stretched endlessly before them, the golden sand sparkling under the sun. Myra glanced at Kian, smiling. I think, we make a good team, don't we? Kian smiled back, a warmth in his eyes that made Myra's heart flutter. The best team. Adventure, discovery, and life. We can face it all together. As they continued, the ruins became smaller behind them, but the memory of their time there remained vivid. Every carved wall, every hidden chamber, and every small oasis would always remind them of courage, trust, and the connection they had found in each other. Myra realized that the ruins had given them more than knowledge, they had given them a shared journey, a bond strengthened by every challenge and every wonder they had uncovered. The desert stretched ahead, full of possibilities. Myra and Kian walked side by side, sharing smiles, laughter, and quiet moments of understanding. They didn't need to speak every thought, the journey itself had spoken volumes. Their hearts had learned to trust, care, and feel joy together. As the sun climbed higher, casting warm light across the dunes, Myra felt a sense of hope and excitement for the future. She didn't know exactly what adventures awaited them, but she knew one thing with certainty: as long as they were together, they could face anything. Kian glanced at her, his hand brushing hers once more. Ready for the next adventure? He asked, a playful twinkle in his eye. Myra laughed softly, her eyes sparkling. Always. As long as we explore together. And with that, they walked on, leaving the desert ruins behind but carrying its lessons, mysteries, and magic in their hearts. The ruins had tested them, challenged them, and inspired them. But in the end, they had discovered the greatest treasure of all, each other. The desert, vast and golden, stretched ahead like a canvas waiting for new stories. And Myra and Kian, hearts full of trust and hope, were ready to paint them together.